My fiancée said marriage felt like a burden and asked for time to think. I didn't fight or pressure her. I canceled the wedding, returned the rings, and moved forward alone. She finally understood when there was nothing left to reconsider. I think marriage feels like a burden right now, and I need time to think about us. Those words hit me like a punch to the gut while I was standing in our kitchen, holding 2 mugs of coffee I just made. Hey viewers, before we move on to the video, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the like button if you want to see more stories like this. I'm 31, been with my fiancée for 4 years, and our wedding was scheduled for 8 weeks away. I set both mugs down carefully on the counter. Okay, I said. She blinked at me, clearly expecting something more. Okay, that's all you have to say. What else do you want me to say, Olivia? She tucked a strand of blonde hair behind her ear, a nervous habit I'd noticed 1,000 times before. I don't know. Maybe ask me why I feel this way. Try to understand. Fight for us. I leaned back against the counter and crossed my arms. You just told me that marrying me feels like a burden. That's pretty clear communication. If you need time, take it. Her eyes widened slightly. You're not even going to ask how much time. However much you need. The confusion on her face was almost funny. She'd clearly scripted this conversation in her head, and I wasn't following her expected dialogue. There's so much pressure with the wedding planning, and my mom keeps calling about the guest list, and work has been insane, and I feel like I can't breathe. I nodded slowly. That sounds really stressful. So you understand? I understand you're overwhelmed. What I don't understand is how you jumped from wedding planning is stressful to marriage feels like a burden. She bit her lip. It's not just the planning. It's everything. The expectations. The commitment. The feeling that once we do this, my whole life changes forever. Your life was going to change forever the day you said yes to my proposal. I pointed out. I know, but that felt different. That was exciting. This feels like a burden. I finished for her. She winced. I didn't mean it like that. How did you mean it? She was silent for a long moment. I don't know. I just need some space to clear my head. I pushed off from the counter. Then take it. I'm going to head out for a bit. Where are you going? Does it matter? That seemed to throw her off balance again. I thought we'd talk about this more. You said you need time to think. I'm giving you that time. What else is there to talk about right now? I grabbed my keys and wallet from the entry table. Wait, she called after me. I paused at the door, but didn't turn around. How long will you be gone? However long I need. I heard her sharp intake of breath, but I didn't look back. The door closed behind me with a soft click that felt louder than it should have. I sat in my car for 5 minutes, hands on the steering wheel, staring at nothing. Then I pulled out my phone and made a call. Hey, David. Yeah, I know it's Saturday morning. Listen, I need to ask you something important. That conversation we had last month about the wedding venue deposit, is it refundable? My best friend, an impromptu wedding coordinator, went quiet for a second. Oh yeah? Up until 6 weeks before the date. Why? What happened? Olivia needs time to think about whether she wants to get married. She what? Can you pull up the contracts for me? All of them. Venue, caterer, photographer, DJ. I need to know what's refundable and what's not. Dude, slow down. You two just need to talk this out. Cold feet is normal. I started the car. This isn't cold feet, David. This is her telling me that the idea of marrying me feels like a burden. She used those exact words? Word for word. He exhaled slowly. Okay. Yeah, I'll pull the contracts. Where are you going? To have coffee and think. Want company? Not yet. I'll call you later. I drove to a cafe on the opposite side of town, somewhere Olivia and I had never been together. I needed space that didn't have memories attached to it. The barista was a college kid with green hair and a nose ring who looked too cheerful for how I was feeling. I ordered black coffee and sat in the corner booth, pulling out my laptop. First email, to my boss, requesting the week off I had saved for the honeymoon. Second email, to my brother, asking if his offer to help me move was still on the table. Third, I opened the spreadsheet David had made for wedding expenses. The venue deposit, $1,500, fully refundable. The caterer, $3,000 paid, $2,000 refundable if canceled by 6 weeks out. Photographer, $1,000 deposit, 50% refundable. DJ, $500, fully refundable. Olivia's dress, for $1,000, already paid in full, non-refundable. My suit, $1,200, refundable minus alterations. Flowers, decorations, invitations, party favors. The total came to just over $38,000. We'd split most costs 50-50, though I'd covered the venue and she'd covered her dress and the invitations. I stared at the numbers until they blurred. Then I started making calls. The venue was first. Hi. This is regarding the booking for October 15th under Petersenshin. I need to cancel and process the refund. The woman on the other end was professionally sympathetic. I'm so sorry to hear that. These things happen. Let me pull up your file. She tapped on her keyboard. Yes, you're still within the refund window. I'll process this on Monday morning. You should see the funds back in 5 to 7 business days. Thank you. Next was the caterer, then the photographer, then the DJ. Each conversation was brief and businesslike. Nobody asked why, and I didn't volunteer information. By the time I finished the last call, 2 hours had passed. My coffee was cold. My phone buzzed. Olivia, where are you? We need to talk. I stared at the message for a full minute before responding. Me having coffee. What did you want to talk about? Olivia, about us. About what I said. About everything. Me. Take the time you need. We can talk when you've figured out what you want. Olivia, that's not fair. You're being cold. Me. I'm being respectful of your request for space. Olivia, this isn't what I meant. Me. Then what did you mean? The typing bubble appeared and disappeared 3 times. Finally, can you please just come home? Me. I'll be back tonight. I put the phone face down on the table. David called 10 minutes later. Okay, I pulled everything. But dude, are you sure about this? Maybe she's just stressed. She said marriage to me feels like a burden, David. People say things they don't mean when they're overwhelmed. I rubbed my eyes. You know what I've noticed over the past 6 months? What? Every time someone asks her about the wedding, she changes the subject. Every time we have to make a decision about it, she gets irritable. Every time I try to talk about our future, where we want to live long-term, whether we want kids, any of it, she shuts down. David was quiet. I thought it was just wedding stress, I continued. But this morning, she finally said what she's been feeling all along. And I'm not going to pretend I didn't hear it. So what are you going to do? I already started canceling vendors. Jesus Christ. Already. We're 6 weeks out, David. If I wait, we lose everything we've paid. But what if she comes around? What if she apologizes and wants to work through this? I watched the rain start to fall outside the cafe window. Then we'll work through it. But we're not getting married in 6 weeks. That's not happening. Have you told her that? Not yet. Don't you think you should? She asked for time to think. I'm giving it to her. He sighed heavily. You're one stubborn bastard, you know that. I learned from the best. Fair enough. Listen, the offer stands. You need help moving. You need a place to crash, whatever. I'm here. Thanks, brother. I hung up and ordered another coffee. By the time I got home that evening, it was past 8. The apartment was dark except for the lamp in the living room. Olivia was curled up on the couch, wrapped in the throw blanket we'd bought together at a craft fair 2 years ago. Her eyes were red. You were gone all day, she said quietly. You said you needed time. I didn't mean for you to disappear for 10 hours. I set my keys down. What did you want, Olivia? For me to sit here and watch you think. She pulled the blanket tighter. I wanted you to care enough to ask me what's wrong. I did ask you. This morning. You said you didn't know. You could have pushed harder. I sat down in the armchair across from her, not on the couch beside her. No, I couldn't have. Why not? Because the one thing I won't do is pressure you into marrying me. If you don't want this, I need you to figure that out on your own. She looked at me like I'd slapped her. I never said I don't want to marry you. You said marriage feels like a burden. Those aren't the same thing. Aren't they? She stood up abruptly, the blanket falling to the floor. You're twisting my words. I was talking about the stress of planning, the expectations, the timing of everything. Then why did you say marriage and not wedding? She opened her mouth, then closed it. I don't know. I misspoke. Did you? Her hands clenched into fists at her sides. Why are you being like this? Why aren't you fighting for us? I leaned forward, elbows on my knees. Because I learned a long time ago that you can't convince someone to love you. You can't argue someone into wanting to be with you. Either they do or they don't. I love you, she said, and her voice cracked. I know you do. But love isn't always enough, is it? Tears spilled down her cheeks. What does that mean? It means that loving someone and wanting to marry them are 2 different things. And I need to know which one you feel. She sank back onto the couch. I'm scared, she whispered. Of what? Of making the wrong choice. Of losing myself. Of disappointing everyone. Everyone meaning who? You. My parents. Our friends. Everyone who's expecting this perfect wedding and this perfect marriage. I sat back. And what do you want? I don't know. We sat in silence for a long time. Finally, I spoke. I canceled the wedding. Her head snapped up. You what? I canceled the venue, the caterer, the photographer, the DJ. We'll get most of the money back. She stared at me in shock. You had no right to do that without talking to me. You asked for time to think about whether you want to marry me. I'm giving you that time without the pressure of a wedding deadline. But that's not. I didn't ask you to cancel everything. What did you think would happen, Olivia? That I'd keep paying vendors and sending out invitations while you decided if I was worth committing to? She flinched. That's not fair. None of this is fair. But it's honest. She was crying harder now. Everyone's going to ask what happened. Our families, our friends, everyone who got to save the date. I'll handle the explanation. You don't have to tell anyone anything until you're ready. How can you be so calm about this? I wasn't calm. I was dying inside. But I learned a long time ago that showing pain just makes people think they can fix you, and some things can't be fixed. I'm calm because I made a decision. I'm not marrying someone who sees it as a burden. Stop saying that. It's what you said. I was upset. I was stressed. People say things they don't mean when they're overwhelmed. Do they? Or do they finally say what they've been thinking all along? She grabbed a throw pillow and hugged it to her chest. I don't want to lose you. Then figure out what you do want. I want you to stop being so cold and distant and actually talk to me like you give a damn. I stood up. I've given you everything for 4 years, Olivia. My time, my energy, my heart, my future. I've supported your career moves, your friend drama, your family obligations. I've planned a wedding that you increasingly seem to dread. And this morning, you finally told me the truth about how you feel. So no, I'm not going to beg you to marry me. I'm not going to convince you that I'm worth it. You either know or you don't. Where are you going? To bed. You can have the couch or join me. I don't care. But this conversation is over for tonight. I walked to the bedroom and closed the door. She didn't follow. I lay awake until 3 in the morning, staring at the ceiling, listening to her crying in the living room. When I finally fell asleep, I dreamed about empty wedding venues and returned rings. The next morning, I woke up to find her side of the bed still empty. I got up and found her asleep on the couch, still holding that pillow. I made coffee quietly, grabbed my laptop, and went to the small office nook we'd set up in the second bedroom. I had emails to send. The first one was the hardest. Dear family and friends, due to unforeseen circumstances, the wedding scheduled for October 15th has been canceled. We appreciate your understanding and support during this time. Gifts already received will be returned with our sincere gratitude. Thank you for respecting our privacy. Simple. Clean. No details. I sent it to my mother first, knowing she'd call within 5 minutes. She did. What happened? She asked immediately, skipping the greeting. Olivia needs time to figure out if she wants to get married. To you specifically, or in general? Leave it to my mom to cut straight to the heart of it. She said marriage feels like a burden. I'm giving her space to figure out what she means by that. And you canceled the wedding. Yes. Without trying to work it out first. Mom, I'm not going to convince someone to marry me. She sighed. You're just like your father. Stubborn as hell and twice as proud. Is that a bad thing? It is when pride costs you something you love. Would you have wanted Dad to marry you if he had doubts? She was quiet for a moment. No, she admitted. Then you understand. I do. But that doesn't mean I'm not worried about you. I'm okay, Mom. You're not. But you will be. We talked for a few more minutes before I heard Olivia stirring in the living room. I have to go. I'll call you later. I love you, kiddo. Love you too. I ended the call just as Olivia appeared in the doorway, looking exhausted and rumpled. Did you sleep at all? She asked. Some. You. Not much. She leaned against the doorframe. I heard you on the phone. Was that your mom? Yeah. I sent out the cancellation notice this morning. Fresh tears welled up in her eyes. So it's really happening. You're really calling it off. The wedding, yes. What happens with us is up to you. How is that fair? You're making all the decisions and then putting it on me to fix it. I closed my laptop. I made one decision, Olivia. I decided not to marry someone who called it a burden. Everything else is your choice. You can decide you want to work on this relationship. You can decide you want to end it. You can decide you need more time. But I'm not making those choices for you. What if I say I want to get married after all? Then we'll talk about it. But not in 6 weeks. Not with the pressure of a canceled wedding hanging over us. Not as a reaction to your fear of losing me. She slid down to sit on the floor, back against the wall. I feel like everything's falling apart. It's been falling apart for months. We're just finally acknowledging it. What do you mean? I turned to face her fully. When's the last time we had sex? She blinked at the sudden change in topic. I don't know. A few weeks. 7 weeks. I counted. Her cheeks flushed. We've both been busy. When's the last time we went on a date? Just the two of us. No wedding planning, no friend hangouts, just us. She thought about it. I'm not sure. 3 months. It was that Italian place downtown in May. How do you remember all this? Because I've been watching us fall apart and hoping I was wrong. She pulled her knees to her chest. Why didn't you say something? I did. Multiple times. You always had an excuse. Work stress. Wedding planning. Your mother. Your sister's drama. There was always something more important than us. That's not true, isn't it? When's the last time we talked about something other than logistics? When did we last laugh together? When did you last look at me the way you did when we first started dating? She didn't answer. I felt you pulling away for months, Olivia. But I kept telling myself it was temporary. That once the wedding stress was over, we'd be okay. Then yesterday morning, you gave me the truth. So what now? She asked quietly. Now you figure out what you actually want. Not what your mother wants. Not what our friends expect. Not what looks good on Instagram. What you want. And if I want you, then you'll have to convince me that you're ready for what marriage actually means. Her eyes widened. Convince you? Since when do I have to convince you of anything? Since you called marrying me a burden. She flinched again at those words. I hate that you keep throwing that in my face. I hate that you said it in the first place. But we don't always get what we want, do we? I stood up and walked past her. I'm going for a run. I'll be back in an hour. Can we please just talk about this? We are talking, but I'm not going to sit here and go in circles with you. You need time to think, so think. I'll be here when you're ready to have a real conversation. I left her sitting on the floor and went to change. The run helped clear my head, but it didn't make anything hurt less. When I got back, she was gone. There was a note on the kitchen counter. Going to stay with my sister for a few days. Need to clear my head. Don't hate me. I crumpled the note and threw it away. Then I called David. Hey, that moving help you offered? I'm going to need it. He arrived 2 hours later with his truck and no questions. We moved my stuff to a furnished short-term rental I'd found online. It took 3 trips. Olivia and I had built a life together in that apartment over 3 years. Separating my things from hers felt like surgery. You're really doing this, David said as we loaded the last box. Yeah. Any word from her? She's at her sister's. Probably getting an earful about what a cold bastard I am. He snorted. Her sister never liked you anyway. The feeling's mutual. We drove to the rental in silence. It was a small 1-bedroom in a complex on the east side of town. Generic furniture, beige walls, no personality. Perfect. You sure you don't want to crash with me and Hannah? David asked as we set down the last box. Positive. You two are about to have a baby. You don't need me in the way. You wouldn't be in the way. I appreciate it, but I need my own space right now. He looked around the empty apartment. This is depressing as hell, man. It's temporary. Is it? Or is this your life now? I didn't have an answer for that. He left after making me promise to call if I needed anything. I spent the rest of the day unpacking and trying not to think. My phone buzzed around 8 that night. Olivia, my sister says you moved out. Me. I took my things to a rental. You said you needed space. Olivia, I meant emotional space, not physical space. Me. Same difference. Olivia, no, it's not. You moving out makes this feel so final. Me. It is final. The wedding is canceled. We're taking a break. What about that isn't final? Olivia, a break doesn't mean breaking up. Me, doesn't it? She didn't respond for 20 minutes. Then, I want to see you. Me, why? Olivia, because we need to talk face to face. Me, about what? Olivia, about us. About fixing this. Me, are you ready to have that conversation, or are you just scared of being alone? The typing bubble appeared and disappeared several times. Finally, that's a horrible thing to say. Me, it's an honest question. You said you needed time to think. It's been less than 2 days. Olivia, 2 days where you've canceled our wedding and moved out. You're not exactly giving me a fair chance to process. Me, fair? You want to talk about fair? Fair would have been you having these doubts before we sent out save the dates. Fair would have been you communicating your feelings before we dropped $38,000. Fair would have been you not calling the biggest commitment of my life a burden. Olivia, I said I was sorry. Me, no, actually you didn't. Not once. I watched the screen, waiting for her response. Nothing came. I set the phone down and went back to unpacking. 3 days passed. I went to work, came home, ordered takeout, and watched shows I'd never had time for before. My mother called every day. David texted constantly. Olivia's silence was deafening. On the fourth day, I got a call from her mother. "You're being incredibly childish about this entire situation," she said without preamble. "Hello to you too, Margaret. Don't be flippant with me. My daughter is devastated, and you're acting like she means nothing to you. Your daughter told me marriage felt like a burden. I'm respecting her honesty. She's scared. That's normal. Every bride gets cold feet. This isn't cold feet. This is fundamental doubt about whether she wants to spend her life with me. You're overreacting. If you loved her, you'd fight for her." I took a deep breath. "Margaret, with all due respect, this is between Olivia and me. She's my daughter, and I'm not your son-in-law. Not anymore. Maybe not ever. How dare you? I have to go. Work emergency. Goodbye, Margaret." I hung up and blocked her number. I'd deal with the fallout later. That evening, Olivia showed up at my door. She looked terrible. Dark circles under her eyes, hair in a messy bun, wearing sweatpants and an old college hoodie. "Can I come in?" she asked quietly. I stepped aside and let her pass. She looked around the sparse apartment. "This is where you're staying?" "For now. It's so empty. It serves its purpose." She turned to face me. "I've been doing a lot of thinking. And I realize I messed up. I said something stupid in a moment of panic, and you blew it completely out of proportion." I felt something cold settle in my chest. "Is that really what you think happened? You canceled our entire wedding over one sentence. That one sentence told me everything I needed to know about how you really feel." "No, it didn't. You didn't even give me a chance to explain. You've had 4 days. Explain now." She took a shaky breath. "I love you. I want to marry you. I was just overwhelmed with everything happening at once, and I said something I didn't mean. Can we please just put this behind us and move forward?" "Put it behind us," I repeated flatly. "Yes, we can reschedule the wedding for next spring. Give ourselves more time to plan without the stress." "And you're suddenly ready to get married?" "Yes." "Why?" She blinked at me. "What do you mean, why? Why are you suddenly ready? What changed in 4 days?" I realized how much you mean to me. How much I don't want to lose you. "So you don't want to marry me. You just don't want to lose me. That's the same thing." "No, Olivia. It's really not." Her face crumpled. "Why are you doing this? Why won't you just forgive me and let us go back to normal?" "Because normal was broken. We were broken. And one conversation isn't going to fix that." "Then what will?" "I don't know that anything can." She stared at me in horror. "You're breaking up with me. I'm saying that I can't marry someone who sees marriage to me as a burden. And I can't be with someone who only realizes they want me when they think they've lost me. But I've always wanted you." "Have you?" "Because for the last 6 months, you've avoided every conversation about our future. You've shut down every time I tried to talk about life after the wedding. You've been distant and distracted and checked out." "That's not true." "Yes, it is. And you know it." She wrapped her arms around herself. "So that's it. For years together, and you're just giving up?" "I'm not giving up. I'm refusing to force something that isn't working. It could work if you just try. I've been trying for months. You're the one who stopped." Tears streamed down her face. "I can't believe you're being this cruel. Cruelty would be marrying you knowing you don't really want it. Cruelty would be wasting more years of both our lives pretending everything's fine. This isn't cruel. This is necessary." "For who?" "For both of us." She stood there crying for a long moment. Then she straightened up and wiped her eyes. "Fine. If that's how you want it." "Olivia." "No. You've made your decision. I hope you're happy with it." She walked to the door, then paused with her hand on the handle. "For what it's worth, I did love you. I do love you. I know. But that's not enough for you. It has to be more than love. It has to be certainty. It has to be partnership. It has to be wanting to wake up next to me every day for the rest of your life. Not just being afraid of being alone." She flinched. "You really think that's all this is? Fear of being alone?" "Honestly, yeah, I do." She opened the door. "You're wrong. Maybe. But I'd rather be wrong and single than married and miserable." She left without another word. I stood in the middle of my empty apartment and felt nothing. Just numbness. The next few weeks passed in a blur. I worked, I ate, I slept. Her sister knows. I think her best friend suspects. But the family doesn't know. She's been very careful. "Thank you for telling me. I'm sorry. I know this probably hurts." Actually, it doesn't. It explains a lot, though. We hung up, and I sat in the silence of my apartment. It made sense now. The distance, the avoidance of intimacy, the sudden need for time to think. She was already emotionally checked out because she'd checked in somewhere else. I should have felt angry, betrayed. devastated. Instead, I felt validated. My instincts had been right. I hadn't been crazy or overreacting. She'd been pulling away because she was already halfway out the door. I called David. "You're not going to believe this." I told him everything Melissa had said. He was quiet for a long time. "That manipulative. Don't. It doesn't matter. Like hell it doesn't. She cheated on you and then made you feel like the bad guy for not fighting for her." "David, I don't care. I really don't. I'm just relieved I didn't marry her. You should tell people. Set the record straight." "Why? So I can look like the bitter ex trying to trash her reputation?" "No thanks. But she's lying about you. Let her. Anyone who matters knows the truth. Everyone else can think whatever they want." He sighed. "You're a better man than me. Or just more tired." 3 more months passed. Winter arrived, cold and quiet. I moved out of the rental and into a small house I bought on the north side of town. 2 bedrooms, a backyard, space to breathe. I started dating casually, nothing serious. Learned to cook properly instead of surviving on takeout. Took up running more seriously and signed up for a half marathon. Life moved forward as it does. Then one evening in late December, there was a knock on my door. I opened it to find Olivia standing on my porch. She looked different. Thinner. Older somehow. "Hi," she said softly. "Hi. Can we talk?" "About what?" "About us. About everything. About the mistakes I made." I leaned against the doorframe. "Olivia, there is no us. There hasn't been for months. I know, but I need to say some things. Please." I considered closing the door. Instead, I stepped aside. 5 minutes. She came in and looked around at my new place. "This is nice. Very you. Thanks." She sat on the edge of my couch like she didn't quite belong there. She didn't. "I'm sorry," she began. "For what, specifically? For all of it. For pushing you away. For saying marriage felt like a burden. For not appreciating what we had until it was gone." "Okay." She looked at me hopefully. "Okay. I accept your apology. Is that all?" Her face fell. "I was hoping we could maybe try again. Start fresh. Do it right this time." "No." "Just like that? No consideration?" "Olivia, you weren't ready to marry me then, and I'm not interested in trying now. We've both moved on." "I haven't moved on. I've been miserable without you." "What about Andrew?" She went pale. "How did you?" "Doesn't matter. But let's not pretend you were miserable. You were already halfway out the door before we even broke up." She started crying. "It was a mistake. He meant nothing. It's you I want. It's not me you want. It's the idea of me. The safety of me. The validation of being chosen by me." "That's not true." "Yes, it is. You didn't want to marry me. You just didn't want me to walk away. And when I did, it damaged your ego." "You're wrong. I don't think I am. But even if I was, it wouldn't change anything. I don't want to be with you." She stood up abruptly. "You're really going to throw away 4 years over one mistake?" "It wasn't one mistake. It was a pattern of choices that showed me who you really are and what you really wanted. And it wasn't me. I'm different now. I've grown. I've learned." "Good. Take those lessons into your next relationship." "There is no next relationship. There's just you. Then I guess you'll be alone for a while. But that's not my problem to solve." She stared at me with tears running down her face. "You've become so cold." "No. I've become clear. There's a difference. I hate you for this." "That's okay. You'll get over it." She grabbed her purse and headed for the door. "You're going to regret this." "I haven't yet." She slammed the door on her way out. I stood in my living room and realized I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no regret. Just peace. The kind of peace that comes from knowing you made the right choice, even when it was the hard one. I'd loved Olivia. Maybe I still did, in some distant way. But I loved myself more. And I loved the idea of a future with someone who actually wanted to be there. Someone who saw marriage not as a burden, but as a beginning. Olivia had asked for time to think. I'd given it to her. She'd spend it with someone else, realizing too late what she'd lost. But by the time she figured it out, there was nothing left to reconsider. The wedding was canceled. The rings were returned. The life we'd planned was dismantled. And I'd moved forward alone. Not because I was cruel or cold or unforgiving, but because I knew my worth. And I refused to settle for someone who didn't. 6 months later, I met someone new at David and Hannah's baby shower. Her name was Christine, and she was Hannah's college roommate. She was funny and smart and direct in a way I found refreshing. We talked for hours about everything and nothing. When I walked her to her car at the end of the night, she turned to me and said, "I had a really good time, but I should tell you up front that I'm looking for something serious. If you're not in that place, that's totally fine, but I don't want to waste either of our time." I smiled. I appreciate the honesty. And yes, I'm looking for something serious too. Good. Then take me to dinner next Friday. Is that a demand or a request? Yes. We went to dinner. Then another. Then a dozen more. 3 months in, we were sitting in her apartment watching a terrible reality show when she turned to me and said, "Can I ask you something personal?" "Sure. Your ex-fiancée, the one you were supposed to marry. Do you still think about her?" I considered the question. "Sometimes, but not in the way you might think." "What way do you think about her?" "I think about how close I came to making a huge mistake, and I'm grateful I didn't." She studied my face. "Do you think you'll ever be ready to try again?" "Marriage, I mean." "With the right person? Absolutely." "How will you know when you've found the right person?" I looked at her, really looked at her. At the way she met my eyes without flinching. At the way she asked hard questions and expected real answers. At the way she showed up fully instead of holding pieces of herself back. I'll know because they'll be sure. Not scared. Not hesitant. Not questioning whether it's too much or too soon or too real. Just sure. She smiled. Good answer. We got engaged a year later. The proposal was simple. Just us, a sunset, and a question I already knew the answer to. She said yes without hesitation. No cold feet. No need for time to think. No calling it a burden. Just yes. Planning the wedding was easy because we were aligned on what mattered. Small ceremony, close friends and family. Focus on the marriage rather than the event. The night before our wedding, she found me looking at my phone. "Everything okay?" I showed her the screen. It was a message from Olivia. "Heard you're getting married tomorrow. Congratulations." "She's lucky." Christine read it and raised an eyebrow. "How do you feel about that?" "Honestly, nothing. She's a stranger to me now." "Do you want to respond?" "No. There's nothing to say." She kissed my forehead. "Good. Because I don't like sharing." I laughed and pulled her close. "You'll never have to." The next day, I married Christine in front of 50 people who genuinely celebrated us. No drama, no doubts, no last-minute panic. Just two people choosing each other with clarity and certainty. Standing at that altar, I thought about the wedding that never happened. The one I'd canceled when Olivia called it a burden. I'd made the right choice. Not because I didn't love her, but because I loved myself enough to walk away from someone who wasn't sure. And in doing so, I'd made space for someone who was. Someone who saw forever with me not as a burden, but as a gift. That night, at our reception, David pulled me aside. "You look happy. Really happy." "I am." "Think you would have been this happy if you'd married Olivia?" I didn't even have to think about it. No. No regrets about how it ended. Not a single one. He clinked his glass against mine. To knowing when to walk away. And to knowing when you've found home. We drank to that. And I meant every word. Because I had found home. Not in a place or a plan or a wedding that almost was. But in a person who chose me as clearly as I chose her. Olivia had asked for time to think. I'd given her that time and moved on. She'd finally understood what she'd lost when there was nothing left to reconsider. But by then, I'd already found everything I'd been looking for. Just not with her. And I'd never been more grateful for a canceled wedding in my life.